What? How about them Cowboys? They went down to the Philadelphia Eagles again. 28-23 is the final score, or was the final score yesterday in Philadelphia. Eagles 8-1. Cowboys are now 5-3, tied with the 49ers for the third best record in the NFC. And this is what we had talked about on Friday when we made our picks, me, Victor, and Mike Debate. It's a case of feast or famine when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. Give an example. They blow out the New England Patriots, who are a shell of themselves, 38-3. The following week, they go to San Francisco and get blown to smithereens, 42-10. Then they go they host the Los Angeles Rams and beat them down. And then coming up against a playoff team when they had several chances to walk off and win the game, they did not. I mean, what can you say? I don't even, Victor told me the stats this morning when we had our morning meeting while I was on the road driving. Yeah, the stats look good, okay? Don't get it twisted. The stats look good. But when it came down to it, Dak did not. You know, they're saying we're going to see them again. You're only going to see them one more time, and that's in Dallas. And there may be a playoff spot on the line for the Cowboys, or the end of their season may come to pass. But right now, it's all about the Philadelphia Eagles. Mr. McCain is with us. Fly, Eagles, fly indeed, my friend. But I have this to say about the Philadelphia Eagles. When you have a team down 28-17, and the Cowboys were reeling when they got down 2 scores in the third quarter, that's the time you needed to run the ball and put them out of their misery. Instead, an exchange of punts, some foolish penalties by the Eagles, especially on the final drive, that took the Cowboys from their own 14 to the Philadelphia 14. A sack and a penalty moved them back a bit. And the last play of the game was a pass to CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb came up 5 yards short. In situations like that, and I know Cool McCain is going to break this all down on Wednesday on the Eagles Elite podcast. You got to put them away. You know, Cool McCain said play calling has been piss poor. It's something that on offense, it's something that you've said all season, Mr. McCain. And we saw it after the Eagles took an 11-point lead. Why were the Eagles so conservative on offense? Why were the Eagles so conservative on offense? I mean, you finally, and I will keep highlighting this, you finally get the bell cow running back you're looking for that you haven't had in a few years in DeAndre Swift. And essentially the second half, they didn't use him. Not the way that they could have used him to really put the game away, because there should have been 35 points scored by the Eagles at least. That should have been 35-17 or 35-23. Instead, you allowed Dallas to have life in the game still all the way to the end. And were it not for a great play by your defense, which is getting worn out, your defense is getting, Mr. McCain, your Eagles defense is getting worn out, having to save the Eagles game after game after game after game. Minnesota, hello. All right, that should have been a blowout, but it wound up being 34-28. The offense has got to be consistent. Okay, the offense has got to get consistent first and foremost, and they got to stay consistent. McCain says, no bragging, we survived. That's absolutely right. You survived. Salute to y'all. But You can't allow teams that you are superior against and have been superior against to creep back in the ball game when you have them down 2 scores. And that was 3/4 of the way through the third period. You had them down 28-17. And then it just seemed like, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. McCain, it just seemed like, to me, the offense shut off. They said, okay, we're up 11. We can rely on our defense to carry us the rest of the way. No, you got to go score more points. This is a Dallas team that loves to score points. Can't play defense worth a damn, but they love scoring points. So it's got to come down to the point where, yeah, you have more points than them, but A, how did you get it? And B, how tired is your defense? How tired was your defense coming off the field yesterday? There were 3 chances that the Eagles had to put the Cowboys away, and one score, be it a field goal or a touchdown, would have put them away. But you let them back in the game. And Cool talked about this on the Eagles pregame Sunday afternoon. Cool and the bunch talked about not letting the Cowboys in the game because Dallas had all sorts of swag when they were up 14-7, and they led at halftime 17-14. Eagles snatched the lead 21-17 in the third quarter, tack on another touchdown in the third period, and then it just seemed like the fountain of offense shut off. I'll ask again, Mr. McCain, and to Eagles Nation, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Because that's how I saw it. They got to 28 points and then they just slammed on the brakes. That shouldn't happen, especially when we're talking about the defending NFC champions. When you're talking about the defending NFC champions and you're talking about a team that basically ran roughshod over everybody in the NFC last year to get to the Super Bowl, and they're not doing it this year, there's a problem. Danny Fuller says not one deserves to participate in the Super Bowl. Oh, a couple of them do. I beg to differ. There's a couple of them, Eagles being one, that deserve to participate in the Super Bowl. The Cowboys are not one of them. Matter of fact, I will say this loss, unless the Cowboys put a winning streak together against whomever they play down the stretch, they're going to miss the playoffs. Matter of fact, let's do some live research and let's look up the Cowboys schedule, shall we? Because I I just don't think that the Cowboys are built to make the playoffs after this very, very devastating loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. You got the Giants next. Then you go to Carolina. I could be wrong. You got the Giants next. You host the Giants. Then you go to Carolina. Well, I could totally be wrong because the December 10th and 17th, after they possibly could win their next 4, Giants, Panthers, Redskins, and Seahawks could put the Cowboys in the driver's seat. And you're right, Cool. The new OC has to get it together. Absolutely, he has to. Absolutely, he has to. Because after you see the Seahawks on November 30th, and I believe that's a Monday night game, you see the Eagles again on Sunday Night Football. Then you go to Buffalo to play the Bills. Then you go to Miami on Christmas Eve to play the Dolphins. Then you host the Detroit Lions again on Monday Night Football. And those 4 games right there could easily wipe out the 4 you're scheduled to win. Giants, Panthers, Redskins, Seahawks. The Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, and the Redskins again could wipe out. They could wipe out what little progress, and yes, I said little, the Cowboys make. Because how's everybody else going to perform in the NFC? How's everybody else going to do? The Eagles are 8-1 right now. They are far and away the best team in the NFC. They got a lot to clean up, but they are far and away the best team in the NFC. Period, point blank, end of story. And as far as the Cowboys are concerned, still, why are you leaning on Dak Prescott? Matter of fact, I'll give you a better question. And Victor posed it to me this morning. Why did you put Ezekiel Elliott at center on the last play of the game in the division playoffs last year? I will not play that clip, Victor, I promise. And then you allowed him to walk? When I asked that, Victor countered with this question, and it's a very good one. Would you want to be a part of this team after being thrown to the wolves at center on the last play of the game? And the 49ers gifted you a timeout to think about it, to just think about it and say, okay, we need to come up with something better. So far, the Cowboys haven't come up with anything better. I hate to say it, but they haven't come up with anything better. They just haven't. They're still the same old Cowboys. And they're not quite the same old Eagles. But what I love about this team is that they're starting to figure it out. What they need to figure out very quickly is the fact that you have a superior running game. When you went up 28-17, that should have been DeAndre Swift time for the rest of the game. That should have been DeAndre Swift time. Sam and I talked about this on Friday when I had him with me. That should have been DeAndre Swift. That should have been DeAndre giving the Cowboys, bad pun coming, a swift kick in the ass. Even my wife's laughing at that one. But in all seriousness, that should have been DeAndre Swift time. It wasn't. It wasn't. But you got to thank the Cowboys for shrinking once again in crunch time like they always do. Let's go back to the 90s with the Dallas Cowboys that were led by Jimmy Johnson, not the 90s teams that were led by Barry Switzer, because Barry Switzer was a puppet. All right. He just got lucky in 1995. Jimmy Johnson wanted to step on your throat. When he put that team together and was getting more notoriety than Gerald, he had the attitude that he brought from Miami that he wanted to step on your throat. He wanted to step on your throat, man. Where's that attitude with the Cowboys? Because it has not been there for a while. It just hasn't been there. Okay? It just hasn't been there. And it hasn't been there for almost 30 years.